Then we will proceed to the Kingfisher Airlines, and then we will talk about the case which was related to Fortis. I hope that you have studied these cases. So before I initiate the discussion, I expect that anyone from your side can initiate it. We will start with Tata Group and then we will proceed to Kingfisher and then Fortis. Yes, anyone of you who has read about Tata case? Is my voice clear to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yes, who has read about Tata? Tata, it was a very famous case.
सर कल आपने टाटा केस तो लगभग डिस्कस कर लिया था सर, आधे से ऊपर।
अच्छा, बाद में क्या हुआ कौन बताएगा? आधा हो गया, आधा? किसी के पास टाइम नहीं है पढ़ने के लिए, है ना? वाह,
सर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट तक आया था, मतलब टाटा और
हाँ
शापोर पालन जी डिफरेंट होगा।
हाँ
तो उनके जो टाटा के जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स थे सर, वो शापोर पालन जी यूज कर रहे थे, ऐसा टाटा ने क्लेम किया था, क्योंकि
हाँ
वो टाटा ग्रुप के कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स, लेकिन शापोर पालन जी कह रहे थे कि नहीं, हमने ऐसा कुछ नहीं किया।
हाँ।
लेकिन फिर भी वो वैसा हो रहा था सर, जैसा टाटा का क्लेम था।
Okay. So only one student was having time to read about the case, others were very much busy. Okay, so we will not go into that, no problem. Yes, so Tata Group of companies, as we had discussed a major part of the case yesterday only. So there was a dispute, and that dispute was between Tata Sons, that is the board of the Tata Group of companies, which controls the entire Tata conglomerate. There was difference between the chairman of Tata Group, the existing chairman, that was Mr. Cyrus Mistry, and the board. The main dispute was related to the functioning of the chairman. Now, as Tata Group has some different working style or functioning style, whereas Mr. Cyrus Mistry, who had come from Shaporji Palonji, his company might be having different functioning style. So he came with that style and he could not adopt the Tata Group style into the functioning. That was one of the major reason. 2-3 reason we had already discussed. So in all, these 3-4 reasons were there which led to the dispute. And the dispute was not amicably settled between the chairman and the Tata board. that dispute went to the industrial tribunal because the board removed the chairman of Tata Group, that is Mr. Cyrus Mistry, could not complete his tenure as chairman of Tata Group of Companies. In the middle only, he was removed by the board. So he thought that his removal was not proper. So he filed a complaint in the tribunal, and the case was there in the tribunal, and then it was finally decided by the tribunal that his removal was legal. His removal was as per the rules and regulations of existing Companies Act. So that was one of the major case which every one of us should be aware of. Now we will move on to the second major case that we are going to discuss, and that case is related to Kingfisher Airlines. Kingfisher Airlines was a company which was owned by a company which is called as United Breweries. Now, this United Breweries was a company which was doing business in beverages. Every one of us have heard the name Kingfisher beer, Kingfisher soda, Kingfisher water. So these type of beverages product the company used to produce before starting with the Kingfisher Airlines. Now the owner of Kingfisher Airlines or United Breweries, every one of us is aware of. He is Mr. Vijay Mallya. He is a person who can be seen in IPL matches, in page 3 parties. Because of his lavish lifestyle, he is widely reported in the media, print media, as well as the other forms of media, social media or television. He is widely reported. Now we are going to discuss how this company had to be closed within a period of 10 years. Now in 2003, Mr. Vijay Mallya, who was doing a very good business with United Breweries, he thought that he should start an airline as he was expanding his business. So in 2003, he created or he started Kingfisher Airlines. This airline was operationalized in the year 2005, and in the year 2009, this airline bought Air Deccan. Air Deccan, I don't know if you are aware of or if not, Air Deccan at that particular time in 2008 and 9, it was a airline which was considered as the cheapest airline. In late 2000, there was a trend in the airline industry, aviation industry, and every industry or also every airline company was competing with each other to reduce the prices of aviation fare. And Air Deccan was considered as the airline which was considered as the cheapest airline. Ads were released at that particular time, and they started comparing their airfares with the fares of railways, that our airfare is at par with the railway ticket of AC railway ticket. And this is how they started promoting their airlines. So in late 2000s, the aviation business or airline business was at boom. It was growing. So Vijay Mallya, who has entered into this business in 2005, and within a period of 3-4 years, the Kingfisher airline was doing very good business. When he bought this Deccan Airways, at that time, Kingfisher airline was number 2 in India. So it was at the top, and there Vijay Mallya thought that he should expand the airline more, and he should become the number 1 player in the country. And that was the reason why he purchased Air Deccan. Now, Air Deccan was the cheapest airline. To make the fare cheaper, the Deccan airline was the first airline which made various changes in the airline industry. Their domestic flights did not provide the lunch facility or snacks facility or other items. So to reduce their fare, they cut short on various things. And that particular changes worked, because if a person wants to travel for say 1 hour or 2 hour, a person wants to travel say from Mumbai to Ahmedabad, and if the time is to be taken is 1 hour or more than that, so for that period the person was attracted towards the fare. If one company is charging 10,000 rupees and the other company is providing the same facility or the same ticket for 5,000 or 6,000 rupees, then most of the people started getting attracted towards these type of airlines. So in 2009, when he purchased this Deccan Airways, he became one of the top airline. It became the Kingfisher airline became the second most or the second most favored airline of Indian passengers. So the company started making profits. There were a number of changes made in the Kingfisher Airlines. Investments were made. New planes were ordered by the Kingfisher Airlines. And for this expansion, Mr. Vijay Mallya took a very heavy loan from various banks. He took loan from UCO Bank, Central Bank, State Bank of India, and other banks. And because of his lavish lifestyle, he started spending money, the money which he was getting as loan from the bank, to be used for his business expansion. He started using for his personal use, for purchasing property for personal use, for foreign investment, for his lavish parties. Now, one more thing you might be aware of, that Kingfisher or Vijay Mallya was often known for the Kingfisher calendars. Kingfisher calendar, which features the top celebrity of the country, and it also includes the top models of the country as well as outside the country. So you used to call top models all over the world, and they used to conduct a photo shoot, and they used to come up with a calendar which was called as Kingfisher calendar, and a huge amount was invested in that. So what has happened is, as both the companies was doing well, his parent company United Breweries as well as the Kingfisher airline were doing well, he started spending more and more and more money on his personal lifestyle. So parties were conducted in 5 star or 7 stars, and that was one of the reason why the downfall started taking place. Mr. Vijay Mallya started concentrating more on these type of activities than looking after the day-to-day business activities of his companies. So he was found more in parties as compared to be in the offices of the Kingfisher Airlines or United Breweries. So when he started taking less interest in the working of his companies, there were problems, and he ignored those problems. The loan started increasing because every loan came with interest. And instead of repaying the loan, he started taking more loan, and he forgot that he need to repay the loan, and that too with interest. When all these things were happening, slowly by 2011, the company started reporting loss. It was clear that now the Kingfisher airline is not a profit making airline. It has started with losses, and the losses were huge. And in 2012, October 2012 was the period when the court grounded all the flights of Kingfisher airline. Their flying license were cancelled by the court, So all the investment which was made during that particular time, the planes, those that were purchased, the maintenance crew, the flight crew, the other employees of the Kingfisher Airlines, they had no work now. So revenue was stopped. No revenue was generated after 2000 October 2012. Planes were purchased with the money which was generated through loans from various banks. As the flights were not moving, no money was there, no income was coming, the banks realized that now they have to act swiftly to recover the money, because he was not in a mood to return their money. He was not returning the money. The bank started sending Vijay Mallya notices that you have to repay a loan of this much of amount with interest of this. And Mr. Mallya started ignoring those notices also. And in 2012, the entire company came down. The Kingfisher airline was grounded. Now, how to recover this money? The banks, they approached the Debt Recovery Tribunal, DRT it is called as. So Debt Recovery Tribunal, they approached and they filed a case against Mr. Vijay Mallya for recovery of amount. And that amount with interest was more than 9,000 crores. So the bank wanted 9,000 crores back from Mr. Vijay Mallya. Now here, before the bank filing the case of recovery, the Enforcement Directorate, that is ED. Now everyone is aware of what ED is, because in news for the last 2-3 years, we can often hear about the raids which are conducted by ED. Now ED is an organization which is directly reporting to Ministry of Finance. As we are aware of what is the job of police, what is the job of CBI or CID, that if police is unable to solve the case may proceed to CID within that particular state. If the CID is also unable to solve the particular case at the central level, it proceeds to CBI. Same is the case with the misappropriation of money. If a company or if a businessman or if a person is misappropriating his finance, then or he is not following the rules laid down under various laws regarding how you can file your returns, if these rules are not followed, then the organization which conducts the inquiry is called as ED or Enforcement Directorate. It's an organization which directly reports to Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Now, this ED has already initiated the inquiry that how a person can spend so much of loan amount on his personal use instead of spending that amount in the development of his organization. So how much of appropriation of funds was done, for that inquiry, the Ministry of Finance has instructed the Enforcement Directorate to conduct that inquiry. Now, as all the banks wanted the money back, they filed a case in a debt recovery tribunal at Bangalore. After hearing and after going through all the evidences, the bank ruled in favor of, the tribunal gave the ruling in favor of the bank that yes, you can recover 9,000 crore or more than 9,000 crore from Mr. Vijay Mallya. There were number of banks, 8 to 10 banks were there who had given loan to Mr. Vijay Mallya. Major players were UCO Bank, Central Bank, and State Bank of India. Now, here in the judgment, the tribunal very clearly mentioned that if he is unable to repay the loan, the bank is given a authority. They can sell the property of Mr. Vijay Mallya and the company, that is Kingfisher Airline, and they can recover their amount. Now, when the banks went to sell the property of Mr. Vijay Mallya and Kingfisher Airlines, they realized that the entire property of the company and Mr. Vijay Mallya has been already sealed by Enforcement Directorate. It is already sealed by Enforcement Directorate. So if a government, again, now this DLT is a government organization, that is Debt Recovery Tribunal, whereas Enforcement Directorate or ED is also a government organization. Now, there was a conflict between these two organizations that if one organization has already attached all the property, how the other organization can pass an order to sell it. And because of that dispute, again, there were problems. And because of that, then again, there is one more organization, and the banks, when they realized that as the property is already attached by Enforcement Directorate and Enforcement Directorate is not ready to transfer that property to the banks so that the banks can sell the property and recover their loans. Why? Because of the reason that ED's inquiry is still pending. They are still conducting the inquiry. Now, when the banks were unable to recover their loan, in spite of the ruling by the Debt Recovery Tribunal, they decided that they should go to some other organization or some other board. Then they formed a consortium. Consortium means when number of banks come together or number of organizations come together, and then when they form a group, that is called as consortium. So all these 9-10 banks, they formed a group. So that particular group or consortium, they again filed a case in the tribunal which was related. It is called as under the PMLT Act. PMLT Act is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So for this particular body, But this particular organization, which is formed again by the government, it deals with the cases of which are related to money laundering. Money laundering, uh, we all are aware of what is money laundering. When the money which we are earning is not recorded properly, is not shared with the government agencies properly, the details of that, then it is termed as money laundering. So it was again under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It was clear that yes, Mr. Vijay Mallya was involved into money laundering. Why? Because he was getting the loan, or he got the loan for the use of, for to be used on his business activities, but most of the loan he used to, or he used on his personal things. He bought properties, he bought planes for personal use, yachts for personal use. He was involved in various parties for personal use. So that was, it was decided that yes, he is a person who is, who was into money laundering. So the judgment was passed that okay, he is involved in the money laundering, but his company, okay, one company is not over. It is proved that now this company is finished, Kingfisher Airlines. But his earlier company, or his parent company, that is United Breweries, was still making profits. And Mr. Vijay Mallya was having 36% stake in United Breweries. So Prevention of Money Laundering Act, under that, the tribunal gave the authority to the consortium of banks which has provided loan to Mr. Vijay Mallya, that you can sell this 36% of his shares and recover the compensation. Now this 36% shares, they were around 6,000 crore rupees. So the option was that instead of 9,000 crore, at least 6,000 crores can be recovered by the bank. The remaining 3,000 crores can be recovered once the ED inquiry is over by selling the property of the Kingfisher Airlines. So why the delay took place? Why the nationalized banks? We are not talking about private banks. Most of the banks were nationalized banks. Why nationalized banks struggled to recover their loan? And the reason which was given was the existence of multiple organizations which were created by the government to monitor or for controlling the activities of business entities. ED is there, SEBI is there, Debt Recovery Tribunal is there. Then again, one more tribunal is there which looks after prevention of money, which looks after prevention of money laundering. So these 4-5 government agencies are there, and it was proved that these agencies do not have coordination in themselves. As they do not have coordination in themselves, it becomes difficult for the banks also. Banks are nationalized banks. Nationalized means they are having authority, or they are having support of the government itself. When government organizations are unable to recover their money, then how a private organization, if gets involved, or private money lenders who have given loan to the defaulter companies, how they are going to recover their loans? So these are some of the issues which has led to the changes in the present corporate governance structure. If you have multiple organizations, you have to make sure that each and every organization is coordinating with each other. If ED is not coordinating with SEBI, and if ED is not coordinating or not accepting the order of debt recovery tribunal, if debt recovery tribunal and the prevention of money laundering tribunal, they are not coordinating effectively, then it is very difficult. It is very difficult for the banks to recover their money. From 2016, Mr. Vijay Mallya, everyone is aware of that he is in United Kingdom, UK. He's there in UK. He is living a very good, decent life there. Why the Indian organizations are unable to get him back, and why there is a delay in his trial? And the reason is very simple: because of multiple organizations which are after him, and there is no coordination in those organizations. And these offenders, they take advantages of these loopholes. अगर हमारे बीच में ही कोऑर्डिनेशन नहीं है, तो उसका फायदा जरूर कोई उठाता है, और उसी वजह से बहुत सारे जो ऑफेंडर्स हैं, जो बाहर जाके बैठ गए हैं, जिन्होंने करोड़ों का घोटाला किया है, जो आज भी अच्छी लाइफ जी रहे, कंपनी इज इनटू लॉसेस, but they have not suffered losses. Company has suffered, shareholders has suffered, investors has suffered because of their fault. But what they have done is they have gone abroad and they are taking the advantages of the loopholes. Now to cover up these loopholes, कैसे सीखते हैं? एक केस से फिर सीखा जाता है, अच्छा ये गलती हो रही है क्या, फिर इसको चेंज करते हैं, ये गलती हो रही है क्या, फिर इसको चेंज करते हैं. दिस वे there are changes being made in corporate governance. That we are going to discuss in this subject, that how earlier the structure in India of corporate governance was, and now how the structure has changed. So that was the reason, that was the case of Kingfisher Airlines. And now we will move on to the next case, and that case is related to Fortis. Yes, anybody who has read about Fortis case? Fortis case के बारे में अगर किसी ने पढ़ा हो तो?
Yes, sir.
Who is this?
Omkar this side, sir.
अच्छा, ओमकार. अच्छा, wait, ओमकार. Anyone else? Who has read about Fortis?
Yes, sir.
What the case was? Fortis was.
Fortis,
Yes. Who is this?
Sir Jayashree is here.
Jayashree. Yes. Yeah, Jayashree, go ahead.
सर मलविंदर और मतलब 21 सितंबर 2016 को 16 के मुताबिक मलविंदर और शिवेंद्र भारत के रईसों पर 12 नंबर पर थे और
Okay.
24 सितंबर 2018 तक इन दोनों भाइयों ने 22,500 करोड़ रुपए और अपना पूरा कारोबार गवा दिया था।
हाँ.
तो 7 दिसंबर 2018 दोनों भाइयों ने एक दूसरे पर मारपीट के आरोप लगाए थे
Okay.
और मलविंदर मोहन सिंह और शिवेंद्र मोहन सिंह कारोबारी भाई बर्बादी तक आने से पहले दोनों ने साथ काम किया था और उन्होंने खूब उनकी कामयाबी लोगों ने देखी थी और कभी दोनों भाइयों को झगड़ते नहीं देखा था और 4 सितंबर 2018 को शिवेंद्र ने बड़े भाइयों पर मुकदमा चलाने की अर्जी लगाई थी
Okay.
और
Very good. हाँ.
नेशनल कंपनी लॉ ट्रिब्यूनल में उन्होंने मलविंदर पर जालसाजी कुप्रबंधन और उत्पीड़न का इल्जाम लगाया था
Okay. Very good.
कि भैया ने मेरी बीवी आदिति के जाली दस्तखत करवाए और मलविंदर और रेलिगेयर के पूर्व चेयरमैन सुनील गोदनामी पर कंपनी को कर्ज में डालने का इल्जाम लगाया था। ये पहली बार था जब दोनों भाइयों के बीच कड़वाहट देखी गई थी।
ओके, वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड। पढ़ा है आपने अच्छे से। और
यस सर। इससे पहले लोग उनकी आर्थिक बर्बादी देख चुके थे और अपनी ही कंपनी फोर्टिस्ट और रेलिगियर में अपना मालिकाना हक खो दिया था उन्होंने। कर्ज चुकाने के लिए उन्होंने अपने शेयर्स बैंकों में गिरवी रखे थे। कर्ज नहीं चुका पाए तो कंपनी को
हाँ, हेलो
हेलो अपने
यस,
गिरवी शेयर्स को जब्त कर लिया गया था और
हाँ,
कुल मिलाकर उन्होंने सब गवा दिया और उनकी ये बर्बादी की कहानी बड़ी अजीब है। और अविभाजित अमृतसर में दो चचेरे भाई थे, रंजीत और गुरबख्श।
हाँ। अब उनकी पेरेंट कंपनी क्या थी? कौन सी कंपनी है मेन?
किसके?
कंपनी का नाम क्या है? फोर्टिस इज व्हाट इज फोर्टिस?
फोर्टिस रैनबैक्सी नाम है सर उस कंपनी का।
ओके, हाँ,
और 1947 में उन्हें ये कंपनी बेचनी पड़ी थी। बंटवारे रावलपिंडी में दिल्ली आए थे वो भाई मोहन सिंह ने उनकी कंपनी खरीद ली थी।
हाँ,
वहाँ इस कंपनी ने खूब तरक्की की थी।
हाँ, हाँ। So very good. You have read the case. The case
यस
was related to Malvinder Singh and Shivinder Singh. Two brothers were there who inherited the business of Renbexy Pharma. Renbexy, every one of us is aware of. It was the topmost drug manufacturing company in India. This company was established in the year 1937, and then after independence, or in 70s and 80s, the company reached the foreign countries also. In late 90s and early 2000s, the company Renbaxi was doing good business not only in India. In India, it was the top drug manufacturer, but in US, in United States of America also, this company was considered as one of the best company which was creating or which was making the generic drugs. So सिर्फ इंडिया में ही नहीं, इंडिया में तो ये एक नंबर कंपनी थी, नंबर 1 कंपनी थी, पर यूएस में भी एक रिस्पेक्टेड, एक रेप्यूटेड कंपनी के तरह उसको माना जाता था, जो जेनेरिक ड्रग्स में डील करती थी. That was Ranbaxy. Now Malvinder Singh and Shivinder Singh, they got this company from their parents, from their father. As the company was doing very good business, and as Jayashree has mentioned that in 2016 they were included as the richest or top 100 or top 10 richest people in India, both the brothers. As their company was the top company, they decided to expand their business. As the company was dealing in manufacturing of drugs or medicines, they started concentrating on the healthcare industry. And there they started investing in the healthcare industry in the name of Fortis Hospital. Fortis Hospital is a chain of hospitals which was controlled by these two brothers. They started investing more and more money in expanding this Fortis chain of hospitals. The second investment which they made was a financial institution in the name of Religare Industry. So Religare and Fortis Hospitals, they started with. Now, when the company was doing very good, when the company was market value of the company was around 20,000 or 22,000 crores. At that time, they sold their share in Ranbaxy to a Japanese firm, Daiichi. And they got a huge amount, more than 9,000 crores they recovered or they got from the deal from the Japanese company. That company was also, that Daiichi was dealing in this pharmaceutical industry only. They got the amount from Daiichi company. And they invested the major portion of this 9,000 crore in Religare, and some part, that is around 3,000 crore, in expanding the Fortis chain of hospitals. Later on in 2008, 9, 10, when there was slowdown in entire world, the recession started taking place. And because of that recession, there was loss to both the companies. The the healthcare, Fortis Healthcare, as well as the Religare, the financial institution. So the money which they had received from that deal of selling their stake in Ranbaxy, they invested that money in these two companies, and because of recession, both the companies started making losses. As the companies were into losses, the rally gear was completely handled by the MD and CEO, that is Mr. Budhani. Jayashri, what was his name? क्या नाम था रैली गेयर का जो हैंडल कर रहा था? आई एम अनेबल टू रिकॉल दैट नेम. Budhani or Badhani something. So that person was there who was handling the entire rally gear company, and the investments which the rally gear was making was not, or were later on proved that they were not the correct investments, and because of those investments the company started making losses. In 2018 or from 2016 itself, the case were filed by one brother against the another brother, that is for misappropriation of funds, or how the signatures of the younger brother's wife was taken by the elder brother. So all these cases started taking place, and when the case was finally analyzed, and the reason for the failure of the topmost pharma company in country, when the failure was found out, and the reason was, very simple reasons were there, and the reasons listed were that Ranbaxy was one of the company which was known all over the world more for innovation in new drugs. Innovation in drugs. So their research and development team was considered as the best in the world, not only in the country, but the research and development team of the Ranbaxy was considered as the best in the world. And when these two brothers started concentrating more on the other two firms, that is Religare and Fortis Healthcare or Fortis Hospitals, they started ignoring their parent company, that is Ranbaxy. And the most neglected department was the research and development department. So as the research and development, which was the core of Ranbaxy, which was the most important department of the Ranbaxy, and for research and development, the company has to devote more capital, more authority, and more flexibility to its team. And that was not given. The time when their father was handling this company, entire focus was on research and development. After taking over the company from their father, for some period they concentrated more on research and development, but later on they started giving more concentration on these two companies, then they started completely ignoring the research and development. In US also it was highlighted that the best part of Ranbaxy is their research and development. And when these things started taking place, then the main team or the core team of research and development, which was there in the company for last so many years, the head of research and development, the other core team members, of research and development, they started resigning from the company. And they resigned from the company, they joined some other company. When the company changes or loses or focuses very less on its core, research and development was the department which made Ranbaxy the topmost drug making company in the country. And when you just ignore the core department, then please remember that the company will start losing profit in the long term. And that was the case with Ranbaxy. The second problem with the brothers were that they completely believed in the CEO and MD who was appointed. Now, this CEO and MD was not appointed on the basis of his merits. This person was appointed on the recommendation of somebody. When the highest authority is not appointed on the basis of his merit, but when the highest authority is appointed on the basis of merit, on the basis of recommendation of somebody, that okay, he is my person, just appoint him as your MD. I know that he will be very good. You have to believe in me. So without checking his qualities or his previous experience, the person was appointed as the CEO and the managing director of Religare, who came from the entire different industry. Now, this Religare was a financial institution, completely a different industry. Now, the CEO, Mr. Badhani or Budhani, who was appointed, he had a experience of leather industry. His business was from leather industry. He had companies or factories which were producing leather. So leather manufacturing and managing finance, they are two different industries. So if a person who is not having enough experience on how to control these financial entities, all of a sudden, if this person is given this responsibility, there are more chances that the decision which were taken, which will be taken by this particular person, may backfire also. And that was exactly which happened. The decisions backfired and the company was into troubles. So these two major reasons were there for the failure of Fortis, and this case is not really called as a failure of Ranbaxy, but it is called as a Fortis case. Why it is called as Fortis case? Because the entire focus was on two companies under Fortis, and that is Fortis Healthcare and the Religare financial institution. And the entire authority was given to the CEO. Both the brothers, they were not actively involved in these decision making. Yes, signatures were taken, but they were not actively involved in the day-to-day management of the company. They completely believed in the CEO that whatever he will be doing, as he has got the recommendation from a particular person, they believed in that particular person, that he is not going to he cannot do anything wrong. So he is just like what we can say is both the brothers believed in that person. The name of the person was Mr. Dhillon. Now, Mr. Dhillon is a sort of, say, a preacher. जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं ना गुरु, तो जो ढिल्लन है वो एक गुरुजी है जिसके काफी सारे आश्रम है। ये दोनों भाई भी उसी महाराज जो ढिल्लन महाराज है उनके काफी अनुयायी टाइप है, उनके डिसाइपल्स है। तो ढिल्लन महाराज ने बोला कि ये मिस्टर जो बुधानी है ये आपका कंपनी बहुत अच्छे से संभाल सकते हैं, इनको आप अपॉइंट कर दो। महाराज जी के कहने पर अपॉइंट कर दिया गया, पर क्योंकि उनको एक्सपीरियंस नहीं था इसीलिए जो उन्होंने डिसीजन लिए वो बैकफायर हुए और कंपनी को लॉस। तो ऐसे अगर बिजनेस कोई करता है तो लॉस निश्चित है। आप अपना कोर फोकस छोड़ देते हो, अपने कोर लोगों को छोड़ देते हो। जिन लोगों ने रैनबैक्सी को टॉप कंपनी बनाया उन लोगों को आपने निकाल दिया, उन लोगों को आपने जाने दिया। और महाराज के कहने पर अगर आप किसी को लेकर आते हैं जिस व्यक्ति को एक्सपीरियंस भी नहीं है, ऐसा व्यक्ति शायद ज्यादातर केस में वो प्रॉफिटेबल डिसीजन नहीं ले पाएगा। और यही चीज हुई और ये मेन रीजन रहा फेलियर ऑफ फोर्टिस का। तो जिस कंपनी का मार्केट वैल्यू 22,000 करोड़ था जिन भाइयों का, बाद में वो बैंकरप्ट के कगार पे आ गए। So that was the case related to Relicare, right? So I think we have covered all the cases. In the next session, we will start with the corporate governance, that is unit 1 of corporate governance. So before starting our first unit, I think we have completed our unit number 5. If anything is remaining, please check with your syllabus. If anything or any of the case is remaining, please bring it to my notice. We will discuss that particular case and we will complete that case, and then we will proceed with the first unit. So 5 unit, as far as I think first unit is already, we have completed our first unit. So thank you everyone for joining today's session. We will in the next section we will start with the first unit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.